Hi, everybody. I'm Errin Heyman. I am the Associate Vice President for Learning Experience with National University. I'm honored to be here and thank everybody for coming. And I'm with my colleague Shane. And introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks. Hi, I'm Shane Strup. I'm Senior Director of Learning Experience Design at National University. I, along with my co-partner, Jen Pantano, we lead a group of about 50 staff members, most of those being learning experience designers, as well as creative service individuals who help us with all of our multimedia and interactive needs.
Thanks, Shane. So we'll launch right in. Today, we're going to talk about designing for success, leveraging frameworks and AI, because we know we have to talk about AI if we're going to get accepted to a conference presentation to empower students. In this case, it actually is something that we're looking at to help us with the course design and development process and learning science as well. So I will jump right in. As mentioned, please enter any Q&A into the Q&A box. We do have time set aside to go through those and answer and hopefully ask for some reflections as well. So appreciate the time to be here. What we'll talk about today, we want to support diverse student population, and that requires online learning experiences that are inclusive, engaging, and effective. For the evolving student populations that we serve at National University, we have a comprehensive learning framework that's rooted in learning science, neuroscience, and a commitment to what we call the whole human. And we've been able to empower what we call Anders. That's how we refer to a lot of our students, because they're students and family members, they're students and workers, they're students and military folks. And then we want to make sure that they can balance their roles as these individuals beyond their student role. And so by blending neuroscience, learning science, and social justice principles that we have augmented with the power of AI, we have crafted an approach that fosters inclusion, engagement, and success for our learners. So what you should get out of this in about 30 minutes or so. So get ready for Errin to talk pretty quickly. But these are just a reminder of some of the outcomes that are on the presentation as well. We want to make sure that you come away with learning how to apply some learning science and neuroscience principles to design effective learning experiences for diverse student populations. We want to help that you look to explore strategies for integrating a whole human principle approach for course design and how to create engaging and supportive learning environments, and to identify actionable ways that you could leverage AI tools and approaches to enhance development and the efficiency, personalization, interactivity, and student engagement in online and hybrid courses. A little bit about National. We have about 130,000 total learners served each year. That's about 50,000 in degree-seeking students, and the other 80,000 is in our workforce and professional education sectors. We have 7 schools: School of Arts, so general education; School of Health Professions; College of Business and Engineering; College of Law and Public Service. We have a School of Psychology and Social Sciences, and then we have our College of Education as well. We have about 230,000 and counting alumni in 50 states and 20 countries. We are one of the largest private nonprofits in the US. What we have is really looking at, our centralized offerings are value-rich education. So of course, students will see a value to it, leading to career and outcomes. We look at it with next generation education. So a lot of what we'll talk about today is how to harness the power of technology, how to really bridge the gap between, where students are and where they want to be, serviced by technology and amazing support systems. And then we wrap that in what we call whole human education. And that's just really, again, that Ander idea. Where are the students, meeting them where they are? And we firmly believe that every student can succeed. So let's jump into it a little bit and talk about neuro-connected learning. So you're probably familiar with, some of the chemicals or the compounds and neurotransmitters that our brain produce. Here are some of them, and these are influenced by many different things. There's cortisol, there's glutamate, serotonin, oxytocin, norepinephrine, dopamine, endorphins. These are just a few, but these are ones that actually can help or hinder the learning process. Some of these make you feel bad. That's cortisol. You probably hear about these on, commercials that talk about, oh, are you gaining weight in your midsection? You might have too much cortisol. That's true. And it actually is brought on by things like boredom and stress. It's actually coined the killer hormone. And so if you think about, lectures and how we often think that students could get bored with lectures, you might be killing your students if you're lecturing. Now, that's a little over dramatic, but if students feel stress or if they feel boredom, that can lead to cortisol production, and that doesn't do well for your brain or your midsection. Glutamate, this is a neurotransmitter, but it can actually eat neurons. So that knowledge, being able to bridge the gap between neurotransmission and learning and pulling that information into deep learning. If there's trauma in your life, you could be producing a lot of glutamate, which can, again, physically hinder the ability to learn. Now, on the other side, there are feel-good chemicals and reactions happening in your brain. And again, this is really on, how in correct doses, because some of these can actually make you feel bad as well. But serotonin is one of those. It's produced when there's a sense of calm, when there's a sense of stasis, and it helps regulate sleep as well. So if you, are looking for how do I get to sleep, you'll look for herbal supplements or other medications that up your serotonin. Can also help with learning. Oxytocin, it's produced when there's a sense of well-being, when there's a sense of trust. New mothers produce oxytocin when they're giving birth to their babies. The babies then in response also produce oxytocin, and those two things bond each other. I recently read too that if you're an animal lover, if you have pets, that the act of petting your pet, so a dog or a cat, can produce oxytocin in you as well as the animal. There's norepinephrine, which regulates cognitive function. It regulates attention. Too much norepinephrine can make you feel a little anxious though. So that's one of those ones that you have to pay attention to. It's kind of the Goldilocks effect. You have to have just enough. Dopamine is truly the brain's reward center. This makes you, you get a rush of dopamine through, some people do it with risk. So, rock climbers, bungee jumpers, things that, kind of give you that rush of excitement. That's generally dopamine, but there's a really correct amount of dopamine that can affect the brain and really allow you to learn as well, because it regulates your reward center. So think about how we reward students for doing well or how we punish them for not doing well. And that can really affect that feel-good regulation. Endorphins is truly the feel-good receptor. It decreases pain. And again, it can be influenced by outside influences. So trying to find that right amount is important for learning. Bringing that then into some of the learning science is, as we think about all this information and we connect this neuro-connected learning, I like to call it, some of these concepts I'm sure are familiar to you as well. Cognition, that's really the idea of knowing something or not knowing. Affection is really the idea of belonging to something or again, potentially not belonging to it. We know that the courses are the center of the programs or center of the school experience in many cases, but think of all of the things that can come around it and that can really help students feel that sense of belonging, a sense of campus, a sense of community, and that's going to really help with that affection. Conation, we might hear this as grit. So, the ability to stick with it is conation. So, that mindset of I think I can, or I've been told I can't, or conversely, I've been told I cannot, that can really affect, students' motivation. And then of course, there's extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So extrinsic, of course, are things like grades. Intrinsic are things like I want to, make my life better. I have the ability to move forward. So keep in mind those as you're putting courses together, as you're teaching courses. And some of the examples linked to then those cocktails that we have just looked at. So cognition, the knowing piece. So I got it right. That's going to produce some serotonin and some dopamine, and that can really help with motivation. Affection, that belonging, that feeling like I feel like I belong here. I'm with my peers. I'm with people who understand me. That can produce oxytocin. On the flip side, if you're feeling like I don't belong, or I'm feeling anxious, that can produce glutamate. And again, that really hinders your ability to learn. Trauma and fear also produce glutamate. So I know, during COVID, we were talking about, the ability for students to come online, and any ability to, still engage in courses. But there was a lot of things that came up out of that too, where people sometimes don't feel safe in their environments. So students who might be in unsafe environments, or trauma-filled environments, actually did even worse during the online portions of COVID. So we have to keep in mind is, where the student is, how the student interacts with the faculty and the school itself, and certainly even in their own context is something to keep in mind as well. And again, that boredom or stress can produce cortisol. Conation, or that grit that I was talking about, again, goes back to the, being able to think that they can, or that the ability to persist, maybe in spite of or because of somebody giving them, a really good push, or even people telling them, no, you're not good at math. That was something that I internalized. That can carry with people for a long time, and it can actually have a lot of information in terms of, how your brain reacts to some of the learning that's happening. Instructional frameworks around this then, as we're looking at how to construct learning design and course design for our students. There are concepts around this. Interleaving is one. I'll talk about each one of these. Novelty, spaced repetition, forced retrieval, and desirable difficulty. These are all pieces that are linked into the ability to learn, or to put together templates in some cases, that can help foster student learning. So interleaving is really, the process where where multiple subjects or topics are mixed, excuse me. And this is opposite of what a lot of courses are set up like. So oftentimes we'll start with chapter 1 and we'll move through sequentially until we get to the end. But really, this is contrasted from that, where instead of there's blocked practice or blocked information, where one topic or skill is practiced and repeated before moving to the next, this is the opposite of that. So you're interleaving concepts, and we're coming back to old concepts, and we're introducing new concepts pretty regularly. This can create novelty. So as we're interleaving information, that novelty brings the mind to awareness, it sparks imagination and some attention. So it can really bring a lot of those chemicals or hormones to the front too. So novelty actually creates that desired challenge. So we can do something, or ask the students to do something first, and then show them, tell, review, ask. I'm sure we've heard a lot of the ability to, tell, show, do, review, ask, or tell, show, do, review is a lot of the times how we approach the information in a class. This is asking students to do something first, and maybe they don't know how to do it. And maybe in some students that'll create a little bit of anxiety. So we have to be careful of that as well. But it also gets the mind perked up and is ready for that challenge. We want to be able to link novel concepts to known knowledge, obviously. So that foundation skill, the ability to build or scaffold on that foundational skills, is still important. Spaced repetition. This is really after learning a new concept, skill, or idea, learners should be able to give their mind time to forget. Now, this sounds kind of interesting, but the brain must struggle in subsequent study to recall the information that was learned previously. If you work on Duolingo, for instance, I've used it to try to hone my Spanish speaking skills. This is something that Duolingo does a lot, especially if you have the free version and you run out of hearts. So if you make 5 mistakes in any given day, you have to wait and start over the next time. And so the next lesson in Duolingo will often bring up brand new information, and then interspersed with like, oh, remember that word you forgot a couple sessions back? Here it is again. And so your mind has actually had time to forget it. And that spaced repetition then allows you, once you get it again and then again, it'll allow to help you combat what's called the forget curve. So that's just bringing up information, letting your mind forget about it, bringing it up again. And then as you go through days and then weeks, you just continually bring it up on certain intervals. And that really helps the brain put this into more deep memory than surface level, remember, forget, or test on it and forget it. So you want to be able to use spaced repetition so it will help with that forget curve. Forced retrieval is pretty much what it sounds like. It's part of combating that forget curve as bringing up, new information and old information and ideas. Quizzes and tests are a perfect example of forced retrieval. And I say they can be used for good because I'm generally not a standardized test taker and champion, because there are a lot of, high stakes that can create too much anxiety. But in this case, you can use forced retrieval in low stakes environment where, say, pop quizzes or, different areas, especially in online, where it's just like, let's do a quick knowledge check. Remember this concept we talked about 2 days ago? Answer a question about it. And that actually can help the brain obviously remember if it's done in a good low stakes way. Appropriate challenge or desirable difficulty. Again, this is kind of finding that Goldilocks place where it's not so much challenge that it's creating anxiety and maybe some, adverse conation where it's like, oh man, I can't do this. But think about this. If you have a picture that's on the left-hand side, this is just a screen grab from YouTube with all of our technology and all of our amazing, course resources. We have the ability to see and learn things in very high fidelity ways. So here's a picture of a heart. Again, it's just a screen grab from YouTube. You can sit there and watch a YouTube rendition of how the heart works, and you'll see the blood pumping, and it can label the different areas of the heart, and it's super cool and it's very detailed. On the right hand, this is another example, probably from a textbook or a PowerPoint, where again, very detailed, very accurate representation of the heart, labeled appropriately. What's better for desired difficulty or appropriate challenge is if somebody, not me, but somebody with pretty good artistic ability, like the instructor, might draw a heart and say, okay, here's what the heart looks like. This is pretty accurate. It's pretty good. It's not as amazing as the screen just a minute ago. But so the brain has to work a little bit to fill in the gaps. Still a good representation. But what if we had something like this? And this is an older whiteboard technology, and you ask the student, okay, draw a heart. It might come up to something like this. It might not be exactly correct. There certainly isn't high fidelity and amazing looking. And what this does is it allows the brain to have to work a little bit harder to think of all the aspects of the heart. And then it allows students to do something so that, the novelty, maybe in this case, if they've never, they have to have a little bit of idea of what the heart looks like. And then students, of course, can ask each other, and the instructor can add to it or correct, any of the information that might be incorrect. But this level of desired difficulty, or this challenge, actually is good for the brain. It keeps people on, an active learning mode. You can watch a YouTube video all day long of the heart, and it's very passive, and you may not learn as much as if you were asked to draw a heart yourself. So instructional approaches that we try to blend in, especially as we're developing courses with faculty at National, are things like gamification. Now, this doesn't mean you're creating a video game necessarily, but it's the theories and the ideas behind gamification. So leaderboards, badging, choose your own adventure. You win points as you have correct ideas or correct answers. Problem-based learning, case study uses, narrative and storytelling are just some of the examples that we help faculty or subject matter experts as they're developing courses or revising courses think through the different types of frameworks that can really help our students learn and help their brains activate. So we want to make sure that our course design, the materials that can really create the sense of belonging, again, drawing in community, that proper cognitive load, quick but not necessarily easily wins. So that helps with conation and cognition. And then again, that appropriate challenge or the desired difficulty. Now, thinking through as we're also looking at the different instructional frameworks, looking at neuro-connected learning, we also have the whole human approach. So we want to be able to help faculty and our learning designers as well implement ideas that really can think through the process of social justice, inclusion, being able to have a sense of seeing themselves in content. So we ask students after they go through courses to think through ideas like this. This class encouraged me to tap into my own lived experiences and how these shape my values and actions. This class examined perspectives that differ from my own. This class identified societal power inequities, helped reduce societal inequities, and this class will help me use learned skills to improve the lives of individuals and communities. So we really try to, infuse that social equity piece in the courses that we build as well. In addition, we also ask students to think through how the course materials might be able to help them and how they were perhaps structured, so that these course materials helped me look at the structured learning experiences for valuing inclusion, established an anti-bias learning environment, established anti-racism learning environment, avoided the use of discriminatory language, and showed value for the diversity of life experiences among all of the students. So this is in the form of kind of a rubric that we have put together with various subject matter experts within the university. And we do, review courses that to make sure that they hit that whole human approach as well. All right, now with that, yeah, it's still on time. So we're going to turn it over to my colleague Shane. We're going to talk how all of this can get put together and how we've implemented some ideas with this with artificial intelligence.
All right. Thank you, Errin. And thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk about learning science and artificial intelligence. Now, it's my job to follow Errin and talk a little bit about connecting and applying that learning science that Errin spoke about with artificial intelligence, or AI as we all know it, and how we use that today. So as educators, we sometimes struggle to scale cognitive science-informed practices, but AI is there, and AI can help us automate these practices for us. For example, tools like ChatGPT or Perplexity can help generate quizzes that align with Bloom's taxonomy. AI can also track patterns in student behavior through LMS analytics or tools like Sana Labs to detect cognitive fatigue and suggest just-in-time interventions. This really lets us optimize the learning efficiency and long-term retention rather than mere completion. That's something that Errin had previously discussed, is that retention piece. So designing for whole human education. Because inclusive design is not a one-size-fits-all approach, AI can help us broaden that representation, whether by rewriting scenarios to reflect students' lived experiences or auditing materials for unintended bias. For instance, tools like Grammarly now flag exclusive language. We can also use generative AI to create alternate case studies reflecting gender, racial, and cultural diversity. Even student sentiment analysis tools can help us better respond to how learners are feeling, giving us a clearer view of where to intervene for greater inclusion. And talking about empowering faculty and students through the use of AI, really, as online education continues to evolve, artificial intelligence has really become a powerful tool for us with enhancing course content, improving engagement, and streamlining revisions. By leveraging AI, educators can refine their online classes efficiently while ensuring a high-quality learning experience for students. And really, the efficiency isn't about cutting corners. It's about giving educators back the time to focus on the impact of the content for their students. And AI tools like Magic Syllabus can help instructors build outlines in minutes instead of hours. And students also benefit from that. We've been using AI to help designers storyboard projects, summarize academic articles, or simulate workplace decision-making that will be the basis of student learning. So it really helps them during that learning process as well. And as they begin to use those tools make learning active, not passive. And so when students are creating using AI, they're developing critical digital learning skills in the process as well. On this slide, we'll see more ways AI can help with the course development process. For content enhancement, AI can analyze course materials and suggest improvements, ensuring clarity, cohesion, and up-to-date information. With regard to personalization, adaptive AI tools can tailor content to different learning styles, making courses more accessible and engaging. Next is automated feedback and assessment. AI-powered tools can provide instant feedback on quizzes, assignments, and discussion responses, improving student learning outcomes. For data-driven improvements, AI can analyze student engagement and performance data, identifying areas of the course that may need revision and help students learn even better. And finally, accessibility and inclusion. AI tools can generate captions, transcripts, and translations, etc., to support diverse learners. So, to better learn about AI and how we could use it in our course development process, we decided to create an optional professional development opportunity for our learning experience design teams. We selected a course that had not been revised in over 4 years. It was a health class. It was called The Stages of Human Development. Then we asked our 7 design teams to each take a stab at redesigning the course using AI to generate the content. So we asked them to use AI to generate everything from images to lecture content to the interactives, quizzes, etc. We gave them a full development cycle, which for us is 12 weeks. That gave them the time to collaborate amongst their teams and complete the work. We asked them to track the number of hours spent researching and building in the LMS. And what we found was those hours that the team spent ranged from 30 to 70 hours across those teams. So some teams took a little bit less time to do that work, and some teams took a little bit more time. But as you can imagine, some of those teams also, some of them were a little bit more in depth than others. We didn't really provide a whole lot of other guidance other than you had to use AI to create the content that was going to be put into the course. So how deep and how structured the teams decided to go was really on their terms. And then our leadership team designed a rubric to rate the new courses based on content accuracy, alignment with learning objectives, creativity and originality, structure and organization, engagement and interactivity, pedagogical soundness, technical implementation, accessibility and inclusiveness, and AI integration as well. When the challenge was over, we had each team present their new course to their peers, as well as a panel of judges, which included our AVP, Errin, our university provost, and even the academic program director of the course being modified. As you can imagine, having seven different teams, like I mentioned before, we had 7 totally different approaches. On the next slide, we'll get a chance to show some screenshots of images and other content that was created so you can get an idea of what they did. But we also asked the team to identify positives and negatives with absolutely no input from the course of their experience designing this course with no input from a faculty course author. Typically, we rely very heavily on those course authors for their input on content accuracy, relevance, and even how to interweave specific content or topics across other courses in a program. As our LXDs are not content experts, this presented the greatest challenge, as you can probably imagine. The biggest positive, and the piece we were most interested in, was we discovered that we could actually use AI to develop modern, relevant, and engaging course materials in a much shorter time than we currently provide during our normal 12-week development process. Now, the challenge is to figure out how to use AI to generate a majority of the content while still keeping that faculty voice through collaboration, review, and input during the process. So on this slide, we really wanted to quickly show some examples of images and other content that were created using AI. Obviously, this is just a very, very small snapshot of the type of content and images and things that our teams created. Like I said, we had 7 different teams looking at an entire course. So there was a lot of really, really great ideas. But these are just some screen grabs that we wanted to show some examples. And although we used AI to generate all the content in the courses, like introductions, lectures, case studies, knowledge checks, discussion questions, and even quizzes, showing the screenshots of that text without any context isn't super helpful. So we decided to focus on some of these items instead. The course we chose, as I mentioned, was titled Stages of Human Development. The image on the top left was created using ChatGPT and using prompts to show two adults in their 50s enjoying a ride at the fair. As you can see, the image came out looking extremely realistic. The image to the right may look a little blurry, but that's because it's actually a still shot of a video we created with a tool called InVideo. By putting in a text script and providing some helpful prompts, the tool is able to pull stock video from Storyblocks to create a full video, which looks custom made. The image on the bottom left was created using a tool called Pic to GIF GPT, which is a service that turns photos into engaging GIFs. And although you can't see the animation in the screenshot, the final product was a cool way to show how the brain activity is different and maybe even a little bit slower between a young individual and someone considerably older. And finally, the image on the lower right is a screenshot of a podcast that was created using Notebook LM. The final output was an amazing 6-minute engaging conversational podcast that was extremely realistic and serves as a different type of learning activity that our students don't normally get in some of our courses. So what does the future of AI look like at National University? Well, our LXD team, including managers and senior directors, is currently working together to create a process proposal that we can present to the provost and faculty members that will hopefully allow us to be more effectively and efficiently incorporate AI into our existing course development process. And by blending the neuroscience, learning science, and whole human education principles augmented with the power of AI, our goal at National University is to craft an approach that fosters inclusion, engagement, and world-class learning for our students.